for 911 and county offices. Claim number 3,456 is to the Jackson's Hinds Library System in the amount of $127,858 even. That is their April allotment. Claim number 3,583 is to Hancock Bank Corporate Trust in the amount of $550,400.81. This is principal, interest, and the trustees' fees on the Mississippi Hospital Equipment bond issue for the Mental Health Commission. And finally, claim number 3,619 is to Waste Pro Jackson in the amount of $166,802.92. That is your residential garbage collection. And we present your claims over $100,000 for approval at this time.
What's the pleasure of the board? Second. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of? Aye. Opposed to? No. Motion passes.
Thank you very much. The last item in your packet were your grant claims.
Mr. President, before we leave that, we still have problems with our phones. And I know in my office. And we've tried everything. It's hard to even do a conference call. You get somebody on the other line and it fades out. And I know we said before it's AT&T. And could we find out how can we get our phones working properly? It's somewhat embarrassing when we talking to people and all of a sudden they disappear. And they think we are hung up on them or something.
We'll let the county administrator address that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. We'll definitely look further into it. Supervisor Stokes, I know we have replaced the phone. I believe Mr. Ringbright has been working on it. So there's plugs and all the electronics connected to the phone. We have been troubleshooting it very thoroughly, but we'll continue to, and we have been baffled about it. But we have been working with Ms. Mangum on it.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Jenny, please.
Again, the last item in your packet were your grant claims. They do appear to be in order this morning. Back to your regular claims. They are claim numbers 3,383 through 3,633. List claim numbers 3,390 through 91, 3,442, 3,456, 3,583, 3,595, 3,619, 3,631, and 3,632, which you have already handled. We present the remaining claims for your review.
What's the pleasure of the board? Second. It's been moved and properly second. All those in
Question,
favor?
Mr. President.
Question for Mr. Stokes.
I wrote down some of the claims, so I believe you have it on page 22. Mr. President, we're paying for Orkin on Martin Street, but currently the building the county owns on Martin Street.
Martin Street, I believe that's in Raymond, is it not?
They didn't say, just said Martin Street,
127 Martin Street. I think we've had that before, and I've questioned that, and I think that that's a description issue that Orkin is putting on that bill. But if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Harrington, is not Orkin spraying your buildings down in Raymond? And it's several buildings?
Right. No, this is Martin.
This says Martin Street. Their bill says Martin Street.
I think that's 127 West Main Street, Raymond. It's the courthouse.
Well, this has 127 Martin, so what you're saying is a
And
typo.
that's what I'm thinking. I think it's actually not our typo. I think it's the Orkin bill that has Martin Street on it, because I've had them look this up before in our office.
Okay, so we don't own anything at 127 Martin Street.
That's Raymond.
All right. On page 38, we're paying $14,000 for commitment proceedings and lunacy hearings, and who make the determination who's going to be the lawyers and all of those things?
We work with our chancellors and they make the appointments.
Who said the amount we're going to have to pay?
I believe that's said by statute.
So we got about, what, 5?
We have to have the special master, we have to have an attorney, we have to have a psychiatrist, and we have to have, it's at least 4 people who have to come to every hearing that we have.
It's
based on another doctor.
And all that come out the county budget?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So is that unfunded mandate?
No, sir, they pay. A lot of our clients cannot afford to pay, and the paupers and they don't pay anything, they verify, they do an affidavit to us that they cannot afford, and then the county has to do it by statute. If the individual can afford to pay, we charge them a maximum by state law up to $400.
So by state law, this is based on fundamental, we have to do it, but the state's not giving us anything.
It's not giving us any additional money. We talked about that during the budget hearing because we had to ask for an increase in funds because we have so many people now who can't afford the $400. So the county has to keep the cost.
On page 44, solar controller Jackson for tent windows. We paying for tent windows.
That's for the sheriff.
That is for the sheriff's office, yes, sir.
We don't have inmates that can tend.
I don't believe I would have any idea.
All right, 47. This one I have concern about. Now we paying, Mr. President, thousands and thousands of dollars for food for inmates. And I think that need to be negotiated with the city because a lot of these inmates are misdemeanor. Here I get a gentleman come to my house on yesterday for Willard Nichols, where there's a dispute with the old traffic ticket. And we paying thousands and thousands of dollars to feed Mr. Nichols, to clothe Mr. Nichols, and Mr. Nichols won't get home. So the amount of money that we paying for the inmates, especially now we talking about violent offenders, about murderers and rapists and robbers. I can see that, but a lot of people have a problem that we're paying all this money for people with misdemeanors when the city of Jackson should have their own misdemeanor holding facility, which one of the former chiefs stated they want their own. So, could we get a list of who's in jail and what they charged with and how many in there for misdemeanors?
If I can answer your question, Mr. Stokes, a part of your question, that's available every morning through the sheriff's office, that list, and there's been some discussion among the board members as it relates to the amount that the county is having to pay toward inmates. I think the sheriff is also in agreement, and I think the majority of the board, I don't want to speak for anyone but myself, but I believe that the majority of the board is in agreement that we believe that the time has come for us to make some type of consideration as it relates to inmates in a lot of different areas. And so I don't think that you have any problem with getting anyone to agree with you on that. Let me go to Mr. Fisher, and then I'll go back to you, Mr. Fisher.
Yeah, I just want to say that any effort you want to lead to have Jackson build its own jail facility or misdemeanor facility, I will certainly join you on it because that is a big problem, and Jackson is a huge contributor to those totals. So I think that taking as many of those out of the county and putting them into the hands of Jackson themselves is a great idea.
Well, in terms of president of the money, Jackson budget is what? 8 times bigger than our budget. What I'm saying is that, it's time to renegotiate at best. I'm not saying let's put people out of jail on the street, but let's at least renegotiate and bring this idea to them. If we holding people like Willard Nichols that just there on some tickets and we feed them, putting clothes on them and everything else, how many other people in there that maybe could be released on house arrest or other things, and I hope that Jackson will be willing to negotiate or talk about it. And I'd be glad to try to meet with the man and someone else because, the county needs money.
Well, Mr. Stokes, I can guarantee you're going to get your wish because that's something that Mr. Fisher, Ms. Calhoun, Mr. Anderson, that we've all talked about. We are stretched to the bone as it relates in the county. In fact, the sheriff is also in agreement with that per our last conversation. The county's budget is stretched to the bone, and we do need help. As far as inmate medical, Ms. Calhoun has worked on that a lot, and it's breaking the county in a lot of respects. Ms. Price, then we'll go from you to Mr. Fisher, then to Ms. Calhoun.
Supervisor, I just have to say, I'll be happy to provide each supervisor with a count. I receive a count on the inmates and the list of the inmates every morning. I'll be happy to see that account to you all. No problem.
Okay, Senator, we don't believe in two copies. Give it to Ms. Mangum or Ms. Moore, raise your hand in our office, and we will really look at it. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Fisher.
Yes, and just to follow up on that comment, it's also available every morning, updated. I know it's on my webpage. If anybody, I'm sure it's on some other web pages too, to get the exact number by city or community in town. The issue of ankle bracelets and house arrest is something that we've talked to also in the past with the judges. And it's my understanding that really needs to come from the judge's side. They're willing to do that. I know there are companies that are available to monitor that, and I'm certainly willing to look at that, have been since I've been in office. So hopefully, as part of the discussion, that would be something that we can use and do so at a lot cheaper rate per day to monitor than it is to house people who would fall in the category where we could do that and they would not be a menace to the community at large.
Ms. Calhoun?
I was going to add that there is a perception by the general public which is misconceived in that some years ago, and I don't know if it was the early 90s or the latter part of the 80s, a study was done that revealed 17% of the taxes paid to the county's coffers come from the city of Jackson. That fact is true. However, if we sit down and analyze what we pay back to the city of Jackson as well as what we return back to the other municipalities of Hinds County, we will see that Jackson receives more than its fair share of taxes back. With 70%, I think it's down now with the blended tax base, about 60% of Jackson taxpayers contribute to Hinds County's coffers. Even with that 60%, when we look at the number of individuals in our detention facility, we will see that over 90% of the inmates are from the city of Jackson. If we look at our court system, and our judges are having to sentence those inmates, again, a large of their budget goes back to those individuals in the city of Jackson. We look at our detention center, we will see that the majority of the children that are there are from the city of Jackson. If we look at the number of taxpayers that are being served by our tax assessor's office, our tax collector's office, and all other departments of Hinds County, we will see that Jackson is receiving back more than its fair share of the taxes contributed to Hinds County. As a matter of fact, the other local municipalities help to assist Jackson with their share of taxes, even though they're not paying, let's say, 60% of the taxes to the county's coffers, or not contributing 60% of the taxes to the county's coffers. They have less inmates, they have less individuals utilizing other services that are provided by Hinds County. So the Board of Supervisors is really carrying a big load in helping to defray the cost of providing services to the city of Jackson. So that's why I say there is a misconception out there that all of the citizens of Jackson are contributing more than its fair share, when that is not so. In fact, Jackson is receiving back from those taxes services that are otherwise being also contributed by local municipalities.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Calhoun. So I think the consensus is that it's a good time to renegotiate, and I think that we will be setting up something. We'll be talking about that in executive session today, and we'll be planning out the best ways where we should go or how we should proceed from this particular point as it relates to negotiation with other municipalities and as well as the city of Jackson, and different options that we may have. There are several other options that we might want to consider as well. Ms. Brenda, go ahead and continue, please.
Can I make one statement about the food? And that is underneath the county administrator's office, the purchasing department through a reverse auction bids all food costs, and they are reverse auction, which means that they come down, each bid is lower and lower and lower, and they are very competitive, and we are getting a very good price through the purchasing department and Fairtronics for those bids.
How much total a year do you think this thing is going to be?
I'm uncertain at this time, but I could get you that for last year's food costs.
$100,000?
Oh, probably more than that. I know that the sheriff's office is required by law to provide to the clerk's office the meal counts, and they also typically will give you a per plate price.
All right.
Let me just say one other thing, Mr. Stokes, before you proceed. I don't want to speak for the sheriff, but I do know that he has either started or is considering another novel approach as it relates to the feeding of the inmates. And so this officer is going to do a little bit to control some of the costs. But go ahead, continue.
Okay. The point I was trying to make, Mr. President, is that people that shouldn't be in jail don't have to be there. That would help cut the cost of food. I'm not saying that those who are supposed to be in jail, that we feed them less. I'm just saying if they don't have to be in jail, get them out of there. And then it'll save the county money, because sometimes we have medical expenses, we definitely got to pay for food, and we definitely have to pay for clothing. And, you know, that's something that can help us do other things with. But on page 55
Including house arrest.
yeah, there's so many other alternatives in this day and time, especially for misdemeanors that's not violent. On page 55,
Yes, sir.
we're paying $21,000 to the Jackson Medical Mall.
Yes, sir. That is for the Hinds County Health Department that is situated in that building.
And that's a month.
Yes, sir.
So we're paying them over $200,000.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then we're paying $17,000 for the Hinds County Health Department.
That is their monthly allotment pursuant to the board's funding allocation with them.
So we pay for them to be there, and we pay them also
Or we get reimbursements for the stay.
total amount.
No, that's human services, not the health department.
We don't get reimbursed for the health department.
No, sir.
But that contract for the Jackson Medical Mall will be coming up soon. And
It's negotiable.
Yes, it will be negotiated. From my understanding, it may go down.
Okay, fine, because I don't want to stay on this too long. We pay on page 58, Mississippi State. Why are we paying Mississippi State?
Those are your fringe benefits for your extension service officers that work for Hinds County through Mississippi State.
The fringe benefits.
Yes.
All right, can you explain what they're doing?
The extension services, just in a nutshell, provide local services to educate our residents in Hinds County in agriculture, or provide other resources. The 4-H clubs are through those agencies as well.
How many people are they helping or talking to? Do we keep a tally?
We don't get a report, but I can get a report. They
You don't get a report?
serve our communities and serve them well. So I can get that information for you.
How many people in general do they?
I can't answer that. But I will provide you copies of
But
that.
I'm just concerned because you're getting $2,000 once you start adding up. You started getting closer to $20,000 over 10 months, and this close to $2,700. And you know, accountability is important when you have a tight budget.
Well, they do get a yearly allocation in the budget, similar to one of our departments. So, and I'm sure that money comes out of that allocation for the year.
And Supervisor, that is a quarterly fringe benefit. That is 3 months.
Thank you.
Mr. Fisher.
Just a quick comment. I go every month, the extension service, in conjunction with Hinds Community College, has a dinner, has a lunch, where they talk about their issues and things. And I try to go with the quarter. The next meeting we have, I'll let you know about it, so you can go and you can talk and hear about some of the things, the great things they do for the youth in the county as it pertains, 4-H in particular, as it pertains to cattle, sheep, and other prizes and raising and that sort of thing. So it's a really great program. So I'll give you a call and let you know they're going to do it sometime. We'll kind of see what they've got going on there, because I know they take those kids go to the Coliseum for the competitions and with the Dixie National Rodeo, and it's a real big event. It's a real big thing for them. So.
And they serve a large amount of the Jackson population.
What I'm saying, Mr. President, the tight budget, we don't have money for mosquito sprays, or somebody probably going to get sick, no summer job. We're going to have to cut somewhere. And, you know, if we can't show that this money is being spent to help a large number of young people, you know, then we got to start weighing who's going to get cut. And if we cut them, then somebody else needs to help them, whether it's the state or whether it's private sources. But there's got to be some kind of ability that this kind of money is being spent. Thank you. I asked my other question another time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Continue, please.
Okay, you have a motion and a second to approve the remaining claims.
All those in favor of? Opposed to?
No.
Motion passes.
You have the order approving the claims portion of the minutes for today, Monday, April 16, 2012, for your approval.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Move for approval.
It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of? Opposed to?
No.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We will continue with our printed agenda. Under my name, I have one particular item or issue, and that issue has been resolved by the Finance Department.
Mr. President, I asked for a matter of privilege. I have a resolution that the board would need to consider. Mr. Barry Lee Kelly, commemorating his life and memory.
Without objection from the board? Okay. Go ahead, please.
I believe his family members are here.
You don't have to have it come forward.
Yes, sir. The family of Mr. Barry Lee Kelly, Mr. President, will you please come forward?
Just the fire chief. Yeah, fire chief. Family didn't think they were ready to handle this yet.
Oh, okay. If the friends of Mr. Barry Lee Kelly, excuse me, if you would please come forward. We were asked to present a resolution to the board for consideration for Mr. Barry Lee Kelly. And the resolution reads, the Board of Supervisors of Hinds County, Mississippi hereby recognizes the outstanding contributions and commemorates the great loss of Mr. Barry Lee Kelly to our country, state, and nation. Whereas Mr. Barry Lee Kelly, born December 8, 1942, to Mr. and Mrs. Leonard Blanton Kelly, Jr. of Jackson, Mississippi, has gone on to a higher calling after having worked tirelessly throughout his life. And whereas Mr. Kelly was a faithful and devoted elder of Providence Presbyterian Church in Clinton, Mississippi. And whereas Mr. Kelly was a graduate of the University of Southern Mississippi, he enlisted in the United States Air Force on April 22, 1966, and served honorably until February 20, 1970. Mr. Kelly served as supervisor on the first production line at the Packard plant located in Clinton, Mississippi in 1973 and retired in 2001. He joined the Pocahontas Volunteer Fire Department in 1987, where he served as captain for nearly 25 years, as well as served as assistant chief for the past 10 years. And whereas during his early adult life, Mr. Kelly was united in holy matrimony to Ann Kelly. They became the proud parents of Ben of Jackson, Mississippi, and Alan of Sauchet, Texas. And whereas Mr. Kelly enjoyed hunting and fishing, but truly loved spending time with his immediate and extended family, he also enjoyed his 15 years of volunteer work with the U.S. Pony Clubs. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Hinds County Board of Supervisors hereby commemorates the life of Barry L. Kelly, who touched the lives of many people in his community with his warm smile and kind spirit. The Hinds County Board of Supervisors extends sympathy to the family and many friends who knew and loved him. So resolved and ordered this 16th day of April, 2012.
Thank you very much. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second, sir.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of? Opposed to? Motion passes. Okay.
And I will ask that each supervisor signs and we'll present this to.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We will now continue with our printed agenda. As I was stating earlier, that one item that I have under my name regarding the election commission, that issue has been handled. So we'll now go back to the Honorable Kim Stokes, District 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we have on the agenda first Captain Green, and I asked the clerk, asked legal to give us some idea of what's going to happen with them. We have some questions about getting them, and I hope someone is here to kind of let us know what's the status of Captain Green.
Okay. Do you have someone that you want to bring forward? I do know that Mr. Wallace, the Hinds County Economic Development Office, would like to talk to this particular issue, or do you have someone in particular?
He's fine.
Okay, Mr. Wallace, would you come and speak to this particular issue as it relates to Capitol Green?
Just by way of a quick update, we recently had a meeting with the Mississippi Development Authority to go over the procedure that would be required to be in place if and when the bonds are issued and funds are drawn down for the Old Capitol Green project. Right now, as of this moment, the developer still has several things that they need to submit to our office so that we can analyze their project properly and give the board a recommendation on what we think should happen. So there are, right now they still are working on other sources of financing, because the only financing we're asked to be involved is the garage and the chiller unit. And JRA in the city of Jackson are now considering whether or not they would be willing to guarantee the loan if the funds are drawn down. And there's been a structure put in place so that that happens. We know where the flow of money and how that's going to work. The state of Mississippi, MDA, has some questions as far as whether the remainder of the financing is in place, because certainly we don't want to start a garage and a chiller unit and the financing is not in place to actually build the buildings and do the other things. We are also waiting on the commitments from the tenants that are going to go to the building. We need to see the commitments that they are agreeing to lease space in any building that is built. And then we're waiting on financial information on the principals and and full spectrum as well. So right now, all of those things will need to take place. The timeline that the developer has indicated that they would like to get the garage in the ground, I think, is going to be tough to meet, simply because it's going to take us sometimes to analyze documents once we get them. And right now we don't have those, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done relative to the analysis once those documents are received. And once we see the initial documents, then we may have questions and we may request other documents. But right now the developer is they have told us they're going to get those things together. They have received requests from us verbally as well as via email, and the county attorney has been copied on everything. So we have the requests out there, but we really can't do anything until we get the documents.
Okay. So what you're saying is that nothing has been returned to the county as it relates to the project as a whole?
Nothing. They sent us some PDFs of their pro formas, and again, we'll state publicly that the pro formas are going to have to be submitted in a fully functioning Excel spreadsheet. Okay. It's really the only way. We don't have time to go in and try to build all of these documents ourselves in a spreadsheet format. So they need to be submitted, ready for us to review, or it will just take more and more time to try to get it done. But right now, we just need the documentation that we've asked for is what we've got to have.
Okay, we'll go to Mr. Stokes, then to Mr. Fisher.
just to clarify some things. Now, we're talking about the 20 million from the state of Mississippi, correct?
That's right. That's the part of the funds they want to draw down to do the garage and the,
Now, the payback of that 20 million,
It's actually 13 million.
well, I think they want to draw down 13.
right, they're going to draw down 13, but it is part of the 20 million
Yeah.
set aside.
Okay, now the payback, in terms of paying the money back to the state, is what you're trying to make sure that